Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the WOW Summit podcast brought to you by the Startup Voyage. Today we've got an episode Behind the Crypto Buzz, a conversation with Valor's Ben Caselin. Ben Caselin is the Chief Marketing Officer at Valor, a leading cryptocurrency platform. And Ben's journey is equally diverse and impressive with key roles in the Bitcoin and digital asset sectors across Hong Kong and UAE, and a strong presence in empowerment initiatives throughout Europe. He's a respected voice in the industry. He's recognized for his insightful contributions to top-tier media and global conferences. With Valor's remarkable achievements, including serving over 500,000 users worldwide and securing substantial equity funding from renowned investors like Coinbase Ventures and Pantera Capital, Ben has been at the forefront, driving the company's global expansion and bringing the benefits of Bitcoin and digital assets to a wider audience. So Ben, welcome to the show, and we're eager to hear your perspectives on the evolving world of crypto and your experiences and how you envision the future of digital finance.
All right, thank you very much, Arthur. A very comprehensive introduction. Thank you very much.
Great. So before we start, let's get the audience to understand you a little bit better. You will be one of the speakers at the WOW Summit coming up very quickly, March 26th and 27th. Tell us about your journey becoming the CMO at Valor.
Sure. The story is actually, I could say, a bit weird, but I think it's interesting to share. So, following everything that's happened in our industry, I think everybody, had to go through some form of introspection. And for me, that took shape in the writing of a book. So actually, last year, I spent some time writing a book called Landscapes of Value. And it really explores value across a whole bunch of dimensions. From Bitcoin and digital currency to religion, to the environment, to art, privacy. And I went very deep. And the word value is, of course, logically very central to that whole kind of exploration. Now, fast forward a few months later, I find myself in Dubai. And I'm at the Burj Khalifa, very impressive, some crypto event. And I overhear a conversation between two individuals that go very deep. And it's really about value, and it's about religion, and it's about the progression of humanity. And I found this very interesting. And so at some point I couldn't help myself, and I intervened in a sense. I just kind of forced myself into participation. And it was a very interesting conversation. I kept in touch with this guy. This guy called Badi. And he lives in South Africa. It turns out he knows a friend of mine. So after 10 years of not speaking to this friend, I've spoken to him again, and it's really great. It's great. Fast forward a few months later, he texts me and he's like, Ben, we have this position at Valor. Like, I think you should check it out. So yeah, I checked it out, and it's a values-driven exchange. Many of the things that I cite in my book, many of the theses that I put forth are similar to what Valor stands for. And so for me, it was a moment of serendipity, and I followed it, and I followed that lead only because of the interesting circumstances that led to it. So, if I had to look at it from a high level view, I have my values, and it is crucial, especially if you work for an influential company like a crypto exchange. It's really crucial that your values are aligned with that of the crypto exchange or whatever company you work for. That alignment is vital. And I think this has been a journey of value alignment.
Well, I think it's a journey actually for the whole industry if you look at it. So if you think about the market itself, the bulls and bears, you've looked at NFTs, meme coins, all these ICOs, and it's still happening these days. A lot of new coins getting kind of developed and brought out to the market. Now, the question in the investor's point of view is, what is the value behind this? And sometimes you can question or argue there is no value, it's just a speculation and let's make some money, right? So how do you think value is then driven from the community? Like, who defines that, and where does it really gain its influence in this market?
Well, I mean, it's very tempting to look at short periods of time and and capitalize on hype. That's a very tempting thing. So of course the industry and is full of it. Actually, global economics is full of this type of speculative trading, I guess. So it's not so much that, that's not the unique problem of crypto. I think we find speculation in all markets. I think the way that I've approached it is to understand that, let's say, the value of Bitcoin is part of a larger story about value in general. And so it's not just Bitcoin or finance that's transforming today, right? It's actually, there's transformation happening across all dimensions of human society. And these all need to work together as well. We cannot move in the direction of more privacy on the one hand, and on the other hand, aspire to a surveillance state. Like, these things won't match. So we need to align our values across the wide spectrum of human life. And I think when we do that, we can see the value of Bitcoin, and we can also see the bubbles, I guess.
Right. So, I mean, you had a quote on your website, and I'm going to read it right now, and maybe you can elaborate on where it came from, what you meant by it. So, sure. Just as the laws of physics held within them the possibility of gems, oil, and precious metals, fine art even, so within the perfect balance of mathematics, we find the possibility of Bitcoin. Where'd you come up with that, the meaning, and would love to hear more about that? Yeah.
Actually, this thought, it's very surprising that you found that, by the way. It's interesting. So actually, this thought is something that I've been articulating for many years, even before Bitcoin existed, but not in this exact way, because Bitcoin didn't exist. But to elaborate, right? I have some background in music. In fact, I studied music, and I produced music, and I wrote lyrics. And later, I even went into painting, like fine art paint and oil and all that stuff. And what I've discovered consistently, when you engage in art, I mean, maybe there's an arrogant artist out there that says, this has all come from me. I am so brilliant. Look at the expression, my skill. Sure, you build your skill, you refine your skill. But I found that in the creative process, it's really more of a discovery that you're making. So I would be amazed at the stuff that happens when you make music, and the kind of the brilliance and the mathematical brilliance of music and I guess composition on a canvas. It's discovery. There's very little that can be attributed to yourself. Much of it is just an inspiration, that kind of light that shines in the heart, and you find it and discover it. So I know this is, maybe it looks like it's not related, but it is. What it means is that, I mean, we all enjoy music, and we all understand that there's some mathematical logic behind music, right? The frequencies and the distance between these frequencies. That brilliance was there 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, before instruments were invented. They were there before people sang. The rules were there before there were birds. The rules were there pretty much from the start of whenever we think is the start of the universe. These mathematical rules. It's just that there was no medium yet. There was no vehicle for music. And it's the same with everything, I believe. The same with a lot of things, at least. And so Bitcoin, as we know, is grounded in mathematics. Cryptography is not an invention, it's a discovery. And so Bitcoin is a discovery. It is discovered. If you, it's just like if you randomize a typewriter, there is a 1 in a trillion chance that it will write a Shakespearean poem.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of discovery over the past whatever, and we've come across the idea of Bitcoin.
Right.
So if you read the quote again, I don't know if I know it by heart, but it says something like, just as
the laws of physics held within them the possibility of gems, oil, and precious metals.
Yeah, so look, just as the laws of physics hold within them the possibility for gems, like what are gems, right? They take shape and form, we have value. Oil is nothing, but if you put it together in a combustion engine, suddenly you can use it. That's all latent in the universe. It's a pretty interesting universe we live in, and Bitcoin is part of that. So that's my statement there.
Well, I guess you talk about art, and that's one of the other things I wanted to understand, since I did look at your background and you were in the music and arts before you traversed into the, I guess, the Bitcoin, bit crypto world.
Mm.
How did that happen? Like, were you just introduced early on by friends that, hey, join this industry, check it out, see if you like
No,
it?
not really. I have never had an interest in finance. Never. Now I
Mm,
do, but just in my life.
yeah,
In fact, I was like really into music, and I just want to be free, and I wasn't really a fan of how, I don't know, like I have some issues with society and some injustices. So there's some, I didn't really want to be part of that system, let's say.
sure.
Um, and so after my music, and what was music, right? Music is about addressing a lot of people and really getting a message out there. But
Mm,
what I discovered is that when you do a performance, a lot of your audience is drunk.
yeah.
Like they're not really listening to what you're saying; they're just enjoying the music, which is great. But I wasn't looking to be an entertainer,
Uh,
so I kind of left the music industry and I went into anthropology. And anthropology is a super fascinating discipline. You go deep into culture, and for this, I went to West Africa and I did some studies, field studies in a mosque in the UK,
right.
where most of the whole community is actually white British converts to Islam,
Mm.
and they wear kind of Middle Eastern garments, and they have Arabic names. So this is very interesting. So I went there, and they talked to me about gold. So this is really early, like I don't know, many years ago, 2014 or something. They talked to me about gold, and they explained to me that in their community, which is kind of global, they accept gold and silver as real money.
Mm.
And as I studied this community, I realized that they are in search of authenticity. They just want to be connected to the real, what's real.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few years later, and I was in Hong Kong, and I worked very closely with my brother, and we worked with many different companies in Hong Kong, tech
Yeah.
companies, so like cybersecurity, remittances, all this stuff, and blockchain kind of came into that.
Mm. Mm.
And so actually, in one sentence to say it, it's actually my brother and I, we educated ourselves, or we actually educated others, and in that process educated ourselves because we were just writing and
Yeah.
exploring, and you discover like, wait a minute, what is this? And yeah, that's and both of us actually were
Yeah.
drawn into the industry.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect theme when it comes to this space. You're talking about people coming from very diverse background. And also, in order to engage and participate in the space, it is through discovery and research, right? And it's just taking the effort. And I love how you put it, is that not only are you learning it, the way you learn is actually teaching others, because that
Yeah.
more or less solidifies your learning. So that's a really cool story. I was thinking about briefly about what you were saying about music is there's mathematics. Well, I always have this conversation with my wife, and we talk about math is everywhere, right?
Mm.
So when you talk about it being in music, and I grew up playing piano, the saxophone. I was also a DJ for some years, and I remember as being a DJ, it was this. I guess in a way, I never saw it as mathematics, but I guess it really is, right? So you can argue you've got your beats per minute.
Mm.
I would basically listen. So this is back when there's vinyl. So I listened to the record and I would count myself, and then I would calculate the beats per minute. It was very like manual. And the reason why I wanted to do that and not being like, I guess there wasn't a lot of devices to do it digitally, but it helped more or less train my ear, right?
Mm.
And then when I'm like trying to create new sounds and mixes, it was all kind of like, okay, I got 8 bars here, in comes this noise for about 4 bars, and then it's all this mixture of sounds. But I guess in the end, you can argue it's based on the mathematical compilation of this
Mm.
whole set that I'm trying to create, right?
Yes.
So I guess it's kind of I can imagine it's like that, yeah.
Except what you
Yeah.
can add to it, I think
Yeah.
what you can add to it is
Yeah.
that it's not just numbers and mathematics in a sense.
Right.
Rather, I think we have an innate attraction to the beauty of symmetry. And
Yes.
so it's not just that we're doing 4 and 5 and 6 and 2. Rather, we're saying I want this sound to be this long because it feels good.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that mathematics also can feel good, and you're kind
Yes.
of going in the right direction. So
Yeah.
Einstein was probably a very happy person, because you're constantly exposed to the brilliance and magnificence of the world around you,
Yeah.
because you're looking at it at the kind of skeletal level. And I
Sure.
guess it's no different for neurosurgeons and everyone. But once you go into detail, you start to be amazed. And I
Yeah.
think it's the same for Bitcoin. I think hopefully it's what draws us in. It's just you start to see the brilliance of
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
before you.
Okay. Well, let's dive back into what you were talking about, your whole alignment of values. So talk about Valor a little bit. So what values did Valor have that really align with your values?
Sure. So maybe a short introduction on Valor. Valor has been around before I joined Valor, which was 2000. And, while it's a kind of globally remote company, the CEO is in the US, I'm in Hong Kong, there's a bunch of people in Malaysia. Like we have staff around the world, but the headquarters is in Johannesburg, South Africa. And South Africa is really one of the adoption hubs of crypto in the world. And over these 5 years, Valor has grown to have to serve around 500 retail traders around the world and more than 1,000 corporate and institutional participants, mostly in South Africa, but also in other places like Singapore, other places in Africa. Actually. So the products are just like most exchanges. So I don't really have to go into that too deeply. But I think what's really differentiating about Valor is that it is first and foremost values driven, which means yes, we can make revenue. Yes, we can make profit. That's good. We can pay salaries, operational costs, whatever, expand your business. But we will never compromise on our values. We can compromise on our revenue. We can compromise on our profits, but never on our values. So what are these values? Well, first of all, being values driven, I believe, is the key to long-term success, especially in an industry that's lacking in values. And so it's just going to show over time. It's one of those things, you can tell people, oh, this is my value. Actually, a value is proven over time. So, Valor celebrated its 6th anniversary yesterday, which won't be yesterday for the people listening, but let's say the 20th of March. And despite everything that happened, everything, Luna, FTX, all of this, Celsius, Valor came out unscathed. In fact, it came out thriving. It's had its strongest year yet. Last month was top trade volume, like all-time high trade volume for the entire 6-year period. And this is all because of integrity. It's all because integrity is proven over time, and it's starting to act like a magnet. And so what are core values? I can mention 3 that are very important. One would be unity. So unity is a very important core value at Valor, because we believe that the global financial system should reflect the oneness of humanity. And that's more profound than it sounds. It's actually very profound. And we have a big problem in the world in terms of division and polarization, and the financial system exacerbates that division. And we need to try and solve it. So we know what we're doing here is, profitable and cool and exciting, but there's also a meaning to it. And each decision that we make has to serve to bring unity and to connect people and to kind of work towards more justice. The second principle is service. So service is the core principle that we believe is part of being a human. Like, we should serve each other. Actually, it makes you happy when you help other people. Now, I'm definitely not going to give a new story of, effective altruism and all that. Like, whatever. I don't even want to, like, in that sense, like, it's not bad to be good, but it's bad to pretend to be good, and that's bad for everybody. So I'm not going to mention that. Service is different. Service is part of human nature, and it's part of what makes us work as a society. So as a crypto exchange, we should not see ourselves as some exploitative parasite in society that just scams people of their money, and makes a lot of money in the process, and we act popular. No, actually, we know that we're dealing with people's life savings, with important treasuries, companies, businesses, all of this. We have to serve them. We know we're working towards the unity of humankind and trying to get finance to support that. And we have to do that with a kind of a spirit of service. Decision has to be in every decision has to be in that spirit. And the last one is truth. So truth is a principle that is, well, there's a zero tolerance policy in Valor for lies. You know, if there's no truth, if it's like, oh, you hide your mistakes, or you hide this, there's zero tolerance because we're dealing with people, people's assets, and that there will be no lies. And it's very interesting because you might think, of course not. I bet you there's 99% lies in the industry. You check.
Yeah.
If people say we have the best security, do they have a security officer? Do they have a security team? Do they do monthly penetration tests, or is it just words? And I think there is lots of that in the industry. That's why there will be more collapses, and we need to be prepared. And so in the spirit of truth, and in a commitment to truth, we have been proposing a whistleblower program. So we published something with the CEO in Cointelegraph, and we're talking to regulators. There should be a whistleblower program globally. Then we can start to see that the people, which is really the majority in our space, with integrity, can bring out the bad roots in this space. And I think we can really get to a better level and be more on par with what we can see in terms of standards at, let's say, a BlackRock or a Grayscale, whatever, right?
Yeah. So I can hear that that's probably your true differentiator in the market, because most of these exchanges that I see, a lot of it appears and pretty obvious that their focus initially is actually revenue first, and then let's build some values after the fact, right? Especially when there's a hot spot that, something is going bad with their exchange, right? The narrative needs to change for themselves. But I do believe I've been waiting for this industry to still clean itself up. I do believe a lot of exchanges are hanging by a thread, and fortunate for them if they're able to hold out for this long through the crypto winter. And yes, now there's trading volume back again. But yeah, from most of these exchanges, much of the focus was user acquisition. How do we get more? Going to the emerging markets, more volume. And that was the focus, rather than how they're going to best serve the community. So I really like that approach.
Well, just to add, sorry about it, Arthur, but
yes, go ahead.
Look, if there are exchanges that are suffering or struggling just because it's difficult, I wish them the best, right? And that's great. But if there are exchanges who are struggling because they've lied and they're just like in trouble now, to be honest, like I hope the users can see it, get out, let it collapse. Who cares? Like it's finished. This is 15 years. We've had Mt. Gox, all of this stuff. We've had FTX, we've had Luna, Celsius. A lot of stuff has happened. And it's like, are we really going to like continue that? No. So even, what is it? Even in Hong Kong, it was last month with Bitforex.
Yeah.
Very recent.
JPX, yeah.
Yeah, and JPEX before that. This is not finished. It's not finished. And we just need to have a zero tolerance, zero sympathy approach. I didn't get sympathy when the exchange fell apart. It's like, okay, deal with it, right? And everybody has to deal with it and get on your feet and build something better. And it's like, anyway.
Well, I love the idea with the whistleblower program, because that in itself will help put people on their toes and kind of really look at how they're running the operations. Because I actually have someone that I know who I spoke with recently, recounting the stories of how they've lost thousands through that Voyager fiasco, and wanting to get back into the market, but not sure who to go with, right? Because it's, back in those days, there were a lot of name brands, like you said, that says we're good, right? And we've got great security and funds are segregated. It doesn't really matter these days when they said, oh, we've got proof of reserves, so that doesn't even matter sometimes.
Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. And then so they're like, okay, that's what they thought of Voyager back in the days, and FTX, and everything blew up. So it's now like, how do they determine trust in exchange? So beyond Valor, if you're going out there and you're going to advise someone wanting to invest in crypto, what do you say? Where to go? How do you determine where to do your trades, or do you go on multiple exchanges? So what's your advice?
Well, beyond Valor, I mean, I think Coinbase is still here in a strong place. Like we have to respect that. And there might be some others. Like, I don't know if I should list all the exchanges, because in mentioning the exchanges that I believe have high integrity, it's also clear which ones I believe don't have.
Right.
So maybe better I don't really comment on the exchange industry like that. But
Right.
I'm really I honestly I don't care if it offends people because look, we have proof of reserves.
Yeah.
Great, we're all celebrating it. It's not very difficult. If I
Yeah.
have an exchange, it's not very difficult to invite one of my rich friends, like connect this wallet, register with VALR, and you got big proof of reserves. It's nothing
Yeah.
to do with the exchange.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I have very little interest in all of these shows, and you know it's just not interesting. I think we have to just be hardcore and move forward with this, knowing, and here's it again, what are we
Right.
doing? We're building an industry that's going to hopefully really make quality of life better in the
Yeah.
world and serve a lot of people that are currently suffering in inflationary environments. And, really, there's quite a lot of confusion in society. So I'm very
Right.
optimistic. I'm optimistic about what we can do.
Right.
And we just need to move forward with this. So if people want to trade on exchanges, multiple exchanges, sure, that's better than, let's say, betting everything on one exchange.
Right.
But it's even better to just take a whole, especially your Bitcoin, it's self-custody,
Yeah.
and keep it with you. And the exchange is there for if you do want to make a trade, or for fiat on and off ramping, or
Sure.
maybe you're interested in some staking. It's fine.
Hmm.
But when you're talking about your net worth,
Hmm.
like, I think self-custody is the theme of the century, isn't it? So
It
like
is.
let's promote it. Let's promote
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, do you think, I mean, ever since the launch of the Bitcoin ETF in the US, in which that majority of the market still has not even been, brought on board,
Exactly.
those guys, you can say it's gone mainstream or institutionalized. These guys don't care about self-custody. Now
Yeah.
they're not buying direct Bitcoin. They're going through a fund. So I guess the question is, where's the market going in a sense that will it be like, I don't know, 80% going into these institutional platforms, and then 20% the self-custody guys? What do you think? Where do you think this is going?
So it's interesting. The only very bad scenario would be that 100% of all Bitcoin goes into BlackRock, and then I know it's ridiculous, but I say it because it means that then Bitcoin will have been completely reduced to a speculative collectible.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, I have a bit of Bitcoin there, and that's it because I have a share of the Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
What is it again? A collectible.
Yeah.
So with where the interest is only in price.
Yeah.
Now that would be a bad thing. That means you can't transact freely, across borders. There's no more self custody. There's a whole bunch of things you miss out on. Now, of
Right.
course, that's not going to happen. Now, I don't know how much percentage will go into the ETFs, but it doesn't really worry me that much. Even if
Okay.
half of all the Bitcoin moved into these ETFs and never moved again,
Yeah.
the value of the other half, which will be equal to the other half, of course, will be so high. Bitcoin will be the value of Bitcoin will be so high that we transact in sats. So
Yeah.
whatever they're still circulating is fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it can always divide into smaller pieces. You know it, right? And that's I don't really see a problem, but it is a problem in terms of, because you mentioned, oh, then these guys are not interested in self custody. These guys don't know about self custody. They don't
Right.
really understand self custody. People just look at Bitcoin and think, great price appreciation. Oh, 21 million, random number. I think there's a lot behind it, right?
Right.
Again, if you appreciate the beauty of mathematics, so let's say there's people that listen to music and can really understand and feel and, have a good sense of what's happening in the music, and others just hear noise.
Right.
Okay, so if you want to share in that noise, good. But that's the noise is not going to move the needle. It's all of the features of Bitcoin in its full richness that give Bitcoin its value.
Right.
So that's the answer. Like I don't mind how much goes into the ETF. It'll make the rest of it more valuable, but that's not really where the value is, right? In the ETFs.
Right. Well, is it fair to say then that Bitcoin has not yet gone mainstream? If everyone's just looking at it from a financial value level, they're not really understanding Bitcoin. So,
yeah.
I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I would fully agree. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
not yet gone mainstream. No, for me, mainstream, but there are some places, right? So, and in my experience, it feels mainstream because a lot of people that I interact with speak about Bitcoin and it's normal. But when I venture, well, I don't know, when I contact my neighbors or whatever it is, like you'll notice that it's they'll know about the ETFs, but that doesn't mean it's going mainstream.
Yes.
Mainstream is that people know, just like gold, like, oh, it's not going very well. I need to buy some gold. And that's in Hong Kong, that's in Vietnam, that's in
Yeah.
India, that's in China. That's mainstream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's true. Well, so I think you focus a lot on your community at Valor, and it looks like your exchange in itself been in development for quite some time since 2018. Are you contributing any other way in Web3? Like, are you working with partners to develop new technologies, or just like I guess develop new products? Do you guys
No.
do a lot? No.
No, of course we have partners, but no, I'm very busy. Like,
Yeah,
I'm very focused on Valor, so I don't
yeah,
do any side projects.
yeah,
Um, I think, over the years, of course, I've worked with different projects, and even at Valor, there's a lot of innovation you can drive, which is important for the ecosystem as a whole. For
mm,
example, Lightning, connecting to Lightning, or integrated with Lightning, or maybe
maybe
Satoshi denominated markets. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that the exchange itself can do and contribute
yeah,
to improve the ecosystem. So no, I'm not. And Web3,
yeah,
the background of Web3 is an interesting story. A few years ago, nobody spoke about Web3,
right.
and I actually remember at that time we were looking like, what's going to be, what's the next thing? And I actually found an article on Hacker Noon, which
Okay.
was it said D-Web tokens might be the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, D-Web tokens, checking decentralized web tokens. I read about it, and one term stood out. It was like Web3. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, interesting. What is this Web3 thing? And so we decided to jump on it and start writing about it quite a lot.
Yeah.
And we pushed out quite a lot of content. So the SEO around it started to take shape, blah, blah, blah. About a month later, or maybe 2 months later, now maybe a month later, we saw similar content with Binance, with OKX. There's a lot of Web3 stuff suddenly.
Right.
And you realize, like, it's not that we caused it. It's that we picked up on it really early.
Yeah.
And it came as a wave suddenly. And it's really prominent in Hong Kong as a theme,
Mm.
and less so in Dubai. But to be honest, it's just another word for crypto.
Yeah.
Like again, we're doing this. This is just like the Federal Reserve. Like, one day it's quantitative easing, and then it's whatever it is, new term. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So Web3 is essentially just crypto, and it taps into the same principles.
Right.
But it's a nice way of talking about it without upsetting people that get upset when they hear crypto. So
It's interesting you say that. Obviously, for a podcast, I reference it as Web3, right? So people ask, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a Web3 podcaster, YouTuber. Very simple. Now, number one, crypto sometimes has that negative, buzz connotation around it. So that's one reason why I change it. But then I often ask people their opinions. What do you think Web3 is? And I get so many different answers. People actually really don't know. Then I got people in the industry. I was talking to someone I'm about to interview probably next week. They're talking about Web 4, right? So I'm like, okay, so I've seen stuff on Reels and Shorts saying Web 1 is this, and then Web 2 is like, was read and write, but now whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a easy way to simplify it to the main audience. But yeah, Web3, very easy to use. But when people ask, what do I think it is? I said, well, it kind of encapsulates kind of everything that's going on right now. You got blockchain, you got AI, you've got crypto. If you want to talk about DeFi, yeah, I mean, it's this whole space, right? To kind of show that, because it's quite nascent and still evolving. So it's interesting you say that, because Web3 here is prevalent in Hong Kong for sure. But yeah, I always wonder how it is on the outside world, where people are still attuned to just use crypto only, right? To reference the space.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, in Dubai, you can hear people talk about Web3, but in Dubai, when I was there was much more interest in just big OTC flow and like USDT and getting,
Yeah.
hedging against all of this risk in the in the system, like with the SWIFT exclusions and all of that.
Yeah.
Very not Web3. Like, I'm sure there's some expeditions where they talk about gaming, but that wasn't the thing that captured my attention.
Sure.
But I agree with you that Web3 could be seen as a very broad term.
Sure.
But you might say that's just tech or just digital stuff.
Yeah.
I think Web3 is very simple.
Yeah.
It just means that, just like with Bitcoin, enables you to be kind of a self-sovereign individual.
Yeah.
So you hold your Bitcoin. Your money is not being debased by others because it is decentralized and, how do you say, with a fixed supply. That ability that you've been given in this world to live in a self-sovereign way is very difficult to live in a digital environment.
Yeah.
Right? You're basically being surveilled and being exploited for your data and everything. So all Web3 it's kind of recreating it's recreating the digital world in such a way that we can live with dignity and sovereignty.
Yeah.
And everything else around it, to be honest, even AI, like that's all cool, but it has nothing to do with it. In fact, it might actually be anti-Web3. Yeah. AI could completely destroy our sovereignty on the internet, right? Could completely destroy our ability to do anything. So I don't know if AI is really part of Web3. It might be the opposite. Let's see.
Good point. Good point. Well, I want to bring back this one opinion article that you had produced about a year ago, and this is about how Dubai and Hong Kong are sort of seen as the big hubs in this digital asset space. And then I caught this one article about some Dubai royal nephew family office in deploying 500 million here in Hong Kong. The way I've always recognized it is it'll be two different markets, different purpose, a huge financial, underpinnings that they will work together to create this digital asset space together. Mainly with alignment, like you said, mainly on OTC flows and capital market products, right?
Exactly.
Now it's a year past. What do you still agree that this will happen, or is there a clear winner, or what do you think's gonna? Where's the shift?
Okay, super interesting. First of all, Hong Kong beats Dubai in terms of history.
Okay.
Like the historical significance of Hong Kong in the crypto industry is top. Is among the most important places in the world in that sense. Not now, but I'm saying historically in crypto. We all know that the majority of Bitcoin mining happened in China for a long time. And so we know that Hong Kong is the gateway between China and the rest of the world, right? This whole story. So we can understand that after many, like, cryptos has been important in Hong Kong, and it's always been unregulated.
Right.
All the big exchanges have a history here, not Coinbase, but like Binance, OKX, FTX, AX, BitMEX, all of it. Perpetuals were invented in Hong Kong, right? The Bitcoin perpetuals.
Yeah.
I think BSV, I mean, I don't agree with it, but Craig Wright and all this drama, I think he was here near my home in a hotel announcing a bunch of things. So that's Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Dubai is a powerhouse, of course, with for all the right reasons. UAE, I should say, is a powerhouse in the region, and the Gulf in general is a powerhouse. Of course, they want to make sure that they remain that type of powerhouse in the future. Bitcoin and stable coins, and I guess the crypto universe in general, is really on the rise, right? So it's not strange for Dubai and the UAE to really jump on this, but they have some catching up to do, you could say. Now, having said that, the regulator in Dubai is incredibly forward-looking, and the regulation that they're putting in place and the frameworks that they're providing are incredibly helpful for innovation. Now, of course, there are some difficulties, some questions around like insurance pieces and stuff like that. It's complex, but they are very clearly intent on not only attracting the capital to Dubai and the talent, but also being a hub for the world. Now, with Hong Kong, I get a little bit of a different sense. The Hong Kong regulations, while it's great that some things have been put in place, are more restrictive. There's more questions about stablecoins, when in fact stablecoins are the lifeblood of this industry. You cannot be a global hub if, let's say, there's no USDT, USDC off and on ramp. Like, it's going to be very difficult. Hong Kong dollar stablecoin is not interesting to people I mean, they might be interested in Argentina, but why would you? You might as well hold the US dollar or whatever, right? So it's like it's a bit. So what I see is that while Dubai is building something, they want to be global up for the world, and you have to put innovation and kind of freedom of capital, in a sense, free market principles first. With Hong Kong, it's slightly more constricted, and I believe, and it's not a bad thing. Everybody's just discovering, but I believe it has to do with the difficulty of its regional positioning. So Hong Kong is not just Hong Kong. Hong Kong is part of China. And so any movement that Hong Kong make, any movements that they make in terms of Web3 is part of a much bigger story, which relates to China. Hence it is maybe a bit more restrictive and a bit more cautious. Now, Dubai and Hong Kong together have shared. Well, there's been a lot of news over the past year of kind of banking partnerships, and so as I mentioned, it's all about flows. It's not about pictures of monkeys. It's not about crypto punks. It's not. It's about money. That's what it's about. It's about the economy. And if I can offer you a picture of a monkey, you give me fiat that I can put in my bank account. Then not my bank account, but in the economy. Well, then Web3 is serving the economy for me, because I'm on a fiat standard if I was a government, right?
Sure.
So it is interesting, and Hong Kong is decidedly more on a fiat standard, I would say, than Dubai. And the reason is, in Dubai, well, what I noticed in the UAE and beyond, there's definitely some consciousness about shifting landscapes, and with the US dollar and with the BRICS, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I look at these two hubs as very important hubs.
Right.
I think one is more restricted than the other at the moment, but I really hope for Hong Kong that it will open up a bit more, because it does have the opportunity to lead globally, really globally, and it'll be a really important thing.
Yeah. Well, I know that there has been a lot of posts that I've seen on social media, or even articles talking about if you need it, or people offering help if you want to set up business in Dubai. So, you go there for sure. I always hear lots of different events happening on the daily, right? Crypto type events, small and big. Are there any special ways you need to operate within Dubai if you're having a crypto business?
It's not specific about crypto, I think. I think what we need to remember is the UAE, not just Dubai, but the UAE, it's a different type of political structure that is different from Hong Kong, China, is different from Europe, different from the US. So of course it's different. And it requires more tact. Like, what I've noticed being in Dubai is it works very well. The police force works very well. The immigration department works very well. The banking kind of industry there works well. Everything works well. And the style is well, don't disrupt that. So it's a pretty straightforward thing. And I don't think there's anything bad about it. I think the same with Singapore. Like, these places, maybe they have some elements that are a bit more strict, but I don't know, it seems to be running better than some of the bastions of freedom in the world, right?
Right. And I guess that was the whole why I brought that up, is because it doesn't matter what jurisdiction that you're in, the way you play within that jurisdiction. If you're in Web3, I'm not going to say crypto, but it's a little different. Everyone has their own nuances. I mean, you can argue,
Sorry, also, if you have a company in the US, I don't know, like Coinbase, and then you get sued by the SEC. So, okay, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole point. I mean, you pick your jurisdiction. I think that's why people are looking at supporting multi-jurisdictions and getting licenses in multiple places as well. So it makes sense, right? I think that's still the play. And it's beyond setting up a place in Cyprus, having operations out of Cyprus and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess for your personal experience in this space, maybe you can share with the audience maybe your top 3 resources. If you're going to get in this space, where do you go? What do you learn? Where do you start? Because it's quite a massive learning undertaking. Yeah.
I'm so biased, So like because I'm very happy with a lot of stuff that's happening in the crypto space, but I'm very focused on Bitcoin.
Yes.
And and I'm also very kind of long-term focused. Like I know that there's going to be like decades. So I would think always be in tune with Twitter. It's good to kind of, follow a bunch of accounts and just be aware. It's not about following. It's more about being aware because Twitter is a very good resource. So that's one, like Twitter. What is it? X, Elon's platform, right?
Yes.
We just make sure you're there. I think that's good. I
Yeah.
think I think podcasts,
Yeah.
and not necessarily, I mean, yours is very great, but not necessarily me. But like, I think there's some podcasts, people like Arthur Hayes and Michael Saylor and these people. I think you should hear what they have to say and
Yeah.
think about what they say. Other than that, I don't know, pick a good book. I don't want to say which book because just pick a good book. Because in the end, people just have to explore, and that's just very crypto focused. I
Yeah.
think if you're gonna. So again, I actually have the book here, but this is not for sale. I'm not promoting it. I just want to show
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This book, Landscapes of Value, which I wrote. The whole idea is because people assumed, oh, it's going to be a book about Bitcoin. Actually, there's just one chapter about Bitcoin, and the rest is about other stuff like art and identity and extraterrestrial life. Like if there's life out there, what does that mean for life here? Like there's bigger questions than just crypto, right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
believe that when you ask the bigger questions in life, you probably gonna have to get access to sound money, right? And
Right.
invest in the future and be prepared for a tumultuous future because I think the landscapes of value are changing. Like our whole idea of what's valuable and is changing. And
Yeah.
really, that's not just crypto; it's in life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one theme as I get older that the conversations change in my circle of friends, the value of time becomes more prevalent, right? I was talking to my cousin who's an attorney and she puts in a lot of hours, has two kids, and she often questions herself, what am I chasing? Where's fulfillment? We often go through individually, you know, in reflection of our lives. And yeah, so for sure, the value of time, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, right? Imagine getting into Bitcoin 2004. If you really believed in it, it doesn't matter if it goes up and down, and you reaccumulate it when it was like what 15,000, like over a year ago, not too long ago, and look where it's at now. And even now, someone's asking me, "Oh, should I invest in Bitcoin?" I said, "You have no idea the fact that it just launched institutional product, right? And not everyone has access to it in the US. And you're talking about all these other countries having it, right? I just can't imagine the amount of money that's going to flow into it. And yes, not from that only value, but if you're looking at it to represent an asset, if you have this thinking that Bitcoin's going to mean something in the future, it's a great buy. It's a great
that's
buy.
right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's exciting times.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You have any last words? Maybe if I were to ask you at the event, are there any people specifically or any type of opportunities you're looking for at the event?
No, no, no. You have to think that we're a global exchange. The majority of our user base, so we're the biggest exchange on the whole African continent by trade volume,
Yes.
right? But we want to grow and expand our global presence as well. Coming to Hong Kong is not really a kind of a spree for like a search for users in that sense. What
Of
we're
course.
coming here for to the event is to find partners, to understand more about the dynamics, not just Hong Kong, but Asia at large,
Right.
especially institutional flow, family offices, corporate participation. Because for Valor, the majority of our volume comes from corporate and institutional traders. So it's like we actually serve businesses and things. So we want to know what does that look like in this region.
Okay.
Um, that's why we're at the WoW Summit. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Ben. Well, I'll see you soon, and thank you for joining the podcast once again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Arthur. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, so that concludes this episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I would like to thank all of you for listening to this episode, and I'd really appreciate it if you leave any type of comments that you'd like to share because it helps to feedback on how I deliver these podcasts.